They thought they were ready. Division I athletes, Olympic-level swimmers, Golden Glove boxers, men who had trained their entire lives to be the strongest, the fastest, the hardest to break. They were wrong. At the Naval Special Warfare Center in Coronado, California, there's a brass bell hanging near the beach. Ring it 3 times and you're done. Your helmet goes in a line with the others who quit. No second chances, no appeal, no questions asked. Every BUDS class starts with 200 to 300 candidates. By the end, roughly 50 remain. That's not a typo. 50. But here's what most people don't understand about SEAL training. The biggest, strongest candidates, the ones you'd bet your house on, they quit first, not last. First. By the bushel, the instructors say. The elite athletes drop like flies. One former SEAL recalled his first day at BUDS. The instructors walked in with a clipboard. They read off the names of the fastest runners and swimmers in the class. Then they pointed at the guy at the top of the list, the best of the best, and said 5 words. You're going to quit. And most of them do. Because being a Navy SEAL isn't about being the strongest. It's about something else entirely. Something you can't measure with a stopwatch or a weight rack. This is what it actually takes to survive the most brutal military training on Earth, and why 80% fail. The name SEAL is an acronym. Sea, Air, Land. Unlike regular soldiers who specialize in one domain, SEALs operate in all 3. They swim miles underwater in total darkness, parachute from aircraft so high they need oxygen masks, conduct raids deep behind enemy lines where backup isn't coming. But becoming a SEAL isn't about passing one test. It's a pipeline. More than 60 weeks of continuous training before a candidate ever pins on a trident. It starts with Navy boot camp, the Naval Special Warfare Preparatory School. 8 weeks of physical conditioning designed to get candidates ready for what's coming. By the end of prep, they have to pass a harder version of the screening test. A 1,000-meter swim with fins, 70 push-ups, faster run times. Fail that, and you're reclassified to the regular Navy before you ever see Coronado. After prep comes BUDS orientation, 3 weeks learning the basics, then BUDS itself. Basic Underwater DEMOLITION/SEAL training. 24 weeks divided into 3 phases. First phase, 7 weeks of physical conditioning. This is where Hell Week lives. Second phase, 7 weeks of combat diving. This is where the ocean tries to kill you. Third phase, 7 weeks of land warfare on San Clemente Island. This is where you learn to fight. But even after graduating BUDS, candidates aren't SEALs yet. They still have jump school, SEER school, survival, evasion, resistance, escape, and 26 weeks of SEAL qualification training. From the day a candidate enlists to the day they pin on the trident. Roughly 2.5 years. The instructors at NSW Prep put it simply. 90% of this is mental. You can be the strongest guy in the room. Doesn't matter. If your mind quits before your body does, you're done. Before a candidate can even attempt BUDS, they have to pass the physical screening test. The PST, 5 events, no breaks between them. First, a 500-yard swim, side stroke or breaststroke. Maximum time, 12 minutes, 30 seconds. Competitive candidates finish in 8 to 9. Then push-ups, minimum 50 in 2 minutes. Competitive 80 to 100. Sit-ups, same standard. Pull-ups, minimum 10, no time limit. Competitive candidates knock out 15 to 20. Finally, a 1.5 mile run. Maximum time, 10 minutes, 30 seconds. Competitive, 9 to 10 minutes. Here's the thing though, everyone who shows up to BUDS passed the PST. Every single one of them. And more than half still fail. But here's something most people don't know. Officers and enlisted candidates have dramatically different success rates. According to Navy data, officers have about a 61% pass rate. Enlisted, 21%. Same surf torture, same Hell Week, same bell. But officers typically have more prep time, more education about what to expect, more leadership training. It doesn't make the water any warmer, but it makes a difference. The lead instructor at NSDOR Prep puts it bluntly. 42 push-ups is the bare minimum, but at Buds, you're doing hundreds of push-ups a day. During Hell Week, hundreds become thousands. His advice? Train beyond the standard. That extra 10%, that extra 20%, it builds physical toughness. But more importantly, it builds the mental strength you'll need when your body is screaming at you to quit. First phase is the gauntlet. 7 weeks of physical conditioning designed to find out who's truly committed and who's been lying to themselves. The instructors are called gatekeepers. Their job isn't to teach you, not yet. Their job is to make training so hard that anyone who doesn't belong reveals themselves. It doesn't matter if you're Captain America. They will still find a way to break you down. Candidates run at least 6 miles a day just to eat, but everywhere they go, they carry something called an IBS. Inflatable boat, small. That boat goes on their head. They run with it. They sleep next to it. One former SEAL said he ran so many miles with that boat that it wore a hole through his hat and rubbed the hair right off the top of his head. Every week, the standards get harder. Timed 4-mile runs in soft sand, timed 2-mile ocean swims in 55-degree water, timed obstacle courses that get faster every week. Miss the time, and you're out. But the physical training is only part of it. The Pacific Ocean doesn't care how strong you are. Candidates hit the surf constantly, running in, getting soaked, rolling in sand until it's caked in their eyes, their ears, every crack of their body, then more PT. The instructors call it surf torture. One former candidate described his first time. They tell you to put your head back so your ears fill with sand and water. When he stood up, he nearly threw up. Everyone was stumbling around, disoriented. And that was just the warm-up. The attrition data tells the story. According to Navy reports, 66% of all candidates who fail Buds fail during first phase. Most quit before Hell Week even starts. Why? Because they haven't wrapped their heads around how hard it's actually going to be. Day one hits like a sledgehammer. There's a mass exodus of people within the first 72 hours. They trained for the test they expected, not the test they got. The 4th week of first phase is Hell Week, 5.5 days of continuous training with almost no sleep. It was designed in World War II by a man named Draper Kaufman for the naval combat demolition units hitting the beaches at Normandy. The idea was brutal but simple. Compress weeks of training into 5 continuous days. Create as much chaos and mayhem as possible. Simulate combat. Find out who breaks. Because here's the truth the instructors understand. The enemy doesn't care how tired you are. SEALs must perform regardless of conditions. Training exposes quitters before combat does. Better to find out in Coronado than in a firefight overseas. Hell Week begins Sunday night with what's called breakout. Candidates are in their tents when the instructors arrive. Machine guns firing blanks, explosions, flashbangs, complete chaos. The candidates stream out into the darkness, running into the ocean, and the chaos doesn't stop for 5.5 days. Over the next 130 hours, candidates will run more than 200 miles. They'll do physical training for more than 20 hours per day. They'll get approximately 4 hours of sleep, total, for the entire week. One of the biggest mental hurdles isn't even the hardest evolution, it's the anticipation. Former SEALs say waiting for what's coming is often worse than the thing itself. The uncertainty is intentional. Your mental toughness isn't truly tested without unpredictability. One of the most brutal evolutions is called steel pier. 2 in the morning. Candidates are in the bay, treading water next to a steel pier. The water is cold, you can see your breath, and you're alone with your thoughts for an hour. Just you and the cold and a voice in your head asking why you're doing this. Then there's log PT. Teams carry telephone poles. The biggest one is nicknamed Old Misery. Over sand berms, into the ocean, back to the start. Over and over. When your muscles are burning and the log starts feeling heavier than humanly possible, you look at your teammates. If they can still do it, you can too. By the end of Hell Week, candidates are hallucinating from lack of sleep. They see things that aren't there. They have conversations with people who don't exist. But they're also learning something essential. Their bodies are stronger than they ever imagined. The mind quits long before the body does. The attrition numbers are stark. Classes that started with 200 candidates are often down to 20 or 30 after Hell Week. 45% quit before Hell Week even starts. Of those who make it to Hell Week, another 21% will drop. 15% quit voluntarily. Another 5 or 6% are pulled for medical reasons. So what separates the ones who make it? One former SEAL put it this way. "It sounds corny," he said, "but it's not the strongest guy who succeeds. It's the guy who, at the depth of being completely broken, physically destroyed, mentally empty, turns around to see who he can help." The ones who make it aren't focused on their own suffering. They're focused on their teammates. That's the secret. Navy SEALs don't survive alone. They survive together. Second phase shifts from selection to skill building. This is where candidates become frogmen. 7 weeks focused entirely on diving, combat swimming, dive physics, dive medicine, open and closed circuit scuba systems. By the end, candidates must complete a timed 2-mile swim with fins, a 4-mile run in boots, an ocean swim stretching to 5.5 miles. But second phase has its own crucible, a test that breaks people who survived Hell Week without blinking. It's called pool competency, pool comp. One former SEAL called it the longest 20 to 30 minutes of his life. Candidates swim back and forth along the bottom of a deep pool called the combat training tank. While they're down there, instructors attack. They rip off masks, yank weight belts, tie air hoses into impossible knots. The goal is to test whether candidates can remain calm underwater when everything is going wrong. If you panic and surface, you fail. If you put your gear back together in the wrong order, you fail. You have to solve the problem with whatever air is left in your lungs. The instructors eventually tie what's called a whammy knot, a knot so tangled you know you can't untie it. You just have to sit there, work the problem, stay calm, wait for them to give you the okay to surface. And there's another evolution called drown-proofing. Candidates have their arms and legs tied, then they're put in the pool. You have to survive, bobbing, floating, moving, without the use of your limbs. Pool comp is arguably the second hardest evolution in BUD/S after Hell Week. But because most candidates who survive Hell Week are deeply committed, only about 5% wash out during second phase. For the last 7 weeks of BUD/S, candidates travel to San Clemente Island, about 60 miles off the coast of California. Third phase is land warfare, basic weapons training, pistol and rifle qualification, demolitions, land navigation, small unit tactics, reconnaissance, rappelling. One candidate expected third phase to be easier, more technical, less of a beatdown. He was wrong. The instructors find new ways to test you. The education is just another tool to drop the hammer and see if you've got what it takes. Training runs 7 days a week with minimal sleep. Live explosives. Live ammunition. By the end, candidates must complete a 14-mile run. Attrition in third phase is only about 3%. By this point, the candidates who remain have proven their commitment. Most will graduate. When candidates complete third phase, they graduate BUD/S, but they're still not SEALs. After BUD/S, candidates go to jump school. 1 month of Army parachute training, then SEER school, then SEAL qualification training. 26 weeks of advanced tactics, mission planning, and combat simulations. Depending on their specialty, they attend additional schools. Sniper training, communications, medical. Every SEAL must also complete a 6-month Special Operations Tactical Medic course before joining an operational team. Only after completing SQT do candidates check into a SEAL team, and even then, they're on probation. Their peers put them through something called the cheese board, a gauntlet of questions about SEAL equipment, tactics, procedures. What's the velocity of a 5.56 round? Answer wrong. Do it again. Too many failures, and even after all that training, you're out. Then comes walkthroughs, reassembling weapons from buckets of mixed parts. Every piece belongs to a different weapon. Put them together wrong, and you fail. Only when your peers decide you've earned it do you receive the trident, the gold insignia that marks you as a Navy SEAL. But the training doesn't stop there. Once assigned to a team, SEALs go through another 18 months of workup training before their first deployment. Unit-level tactics, task group exercises, a final certification exercise with the entire squadron. One former SEAL said he didn't feel comfortable as an operator, rather than a new guy, until somewhere between 3 and 5 years at the command. That's not a flaw. That's by design. It keeps every SEAL humble, always learning, always training, never thinking you're the best at something, because there's always room for improvement. The full pipeline, if from boot camp to Trident, takes roughly 2.5 years, 60 weeks of formal training, then 18 more months of workup before deployment, 200 candidates reduced to 50, then forged into something else entirely. The biggest athletes quit, the strongest swimmers quit. The ones who make it aren't necessarily the fastest or the strongest. They're the ones who decided, before they ever showed up, that quitting wasn't an option. And when they were completely broken, physically destroyed, mentally empty, they turned around to help the guy next to them. That's the secret. That's what separates the 20% who make it from the 80% who don't. That's what makes a Navy SEAL. Now here's our question for you. If you were standing on that beach in Coronado, soaked, freezing, exhausted, would you ring the bell? Or would you keep going? Let us know in the comments. We read every single one. And if this video gave you a new appreciation for what these operators go through, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next.